Hello there everybody and welcome to 10 advanced tips and tricks for Songs of SYX version 66. There's a few new things in this version and a few new things that I have learned and mean to share. So I want to start out here with number one, something I learned from the community. So workshops produce noise. Most people don't like noise. Unless you're a Dondorian or a Kratonian, then you like noise, or you're at least neutral to it. But sometimes it just happens that you want your housing next to the workshops, and see, walls solve that problem. This is amazing. I haven't come up with the idea myself. It is so stupidly easy that I felt ashamed. So you just go over to the structures menu, you select the kind of wall that you go for, and then you just build some walls between the housing and the workshops. So that's all it takes, and it works a charm. I mean, in my scenario here, I haven't built it in visually pleasing, but you can see that the housing units are completely shielded off of the noise by just adding in these ugly walls. So if you manage to incorporate into your city design well, these can be really, really cool. Number two, I am a fond believer of early game trade these days. So try to make the trade alliance with your neighbors as early as possible, because your neighbors are evaluating the things, comparing to your kingdom, empire, however you want to call yourself, in relation to your wealth to their wealth. So if you are piss poor, they will be demanding less for the trade than later. Some people, though, demand more, some less. The economy simulation of the game is very, very different. I've had trade alliances that only required 3 or 4,000 denarii. At the beginning of the game, I've met people that demanded almost 50,000 at the beginning of the game. So if things are really, really horrible, well, there is also the chance to reroll, but the earlier you got this down, the better, because you have a direct opportunity to import whatever you want via demanding it from your neighbors, and you can pay with either resources directly, what kind of resource mix you want, and in addition to that, denarii. This is such a powerful early game tool that I strongly recommend to forge a trade bond with your neighbors as quick as possible. I mean, heck, build a warehouse, fill it up with stones and wood and see how far you'll get, or whatever idea you have to create some early game wealth. But the gist of it is, the earlier the better, because you can just buy whatever you need for those buildings that you're not producing yourself. Number three, water is power. Seriously, with version 66, water has become even more powerful, as pumps are now pressurizing 100 tiles each, not only 64. And yeah, the things you can do. You can power up the bathhouses by just letting a canal run next to them, providing fresh water. You can buff up your pastures. You get a tasty 25% freshwater bonus by just letting a canal run past it, and you can of course buff up the fertility of your fields. Check out base fertility versus actual fertility. So with some tweaks and positioning tricks, you can totally amp up the productivity of the fields with that a lot. In short, wherever there's water, you have an extremely powerful resource to boost up several industries. You have even a service building that is boostable by water, and therefore planning your city along the canals that you can draw and or the river slash coastline that is available to you is absolutely important and makes a city so much more successful by just thinking about water and how you want to incorporate it. So in a nutshell, if you lack any other ideas, here's one starter idea. Water and agriculture go super well together, and bathing as well. So, number four, specialization. Every city excels at producing something specific by alone setting up a strategic resource decision when you place down your city. In this example, we have clay and pottery. These are the special products of my city. This is so important to set the industry up as quick as you can, because these are the items that you can eagerly export, and the really cool thing about them is their value doesn't decay as fast as things that can be produced everywhere. Because, you know, the economy in this game is quite realistic, and stuff that is easily producible decays in value much faster. Therefore, your specialized products are worth it, but don't flood the market too much. Use always, if you can, the most strongly refined good in the chain. So, for example, exporting pottery is smarter than just exporting clay, but in every case you should do both, nonetheless. Either way, the gist of it at this point here is specialize your city and invest into your specialized industry. Whatever it might be stone to cut stone or to metal or flat out gemstone mining or whatever it might be. You can really do wonderful things with that, and it's so much worth investing into that as soon as you can. Stem the investment. Number 5, there is a direct relationship between food production and service providing and the growth of your city. These three things happen together. So, in a nutshell, if you want to grow your city, make sure first that your workers are producing enough food. As the next step, select any kind of service that the city is lacking and provide it. You don't need to worry too much about worker investment because most really good services require workers, like hospitals, bathhouses, lavatories, even graveyards require workers. But if you go for this equation that you first provide food, then check out which service needs to be fulfilled, and then you grow the city out of that, you will have a lot of success with that. As a side note here, or two side notes, services are pretty much fulfilled as soon as they are past the 70 or 75% mark. So it's really not yielding too much returns if you keep investing there. And the second thing is, some services cap much earlier, and if you mouse over and you see that there is on the last point in the list a point called upgrade, which is very low, that means the service can't rise higher than that until you upgrade that service. Usually you need to tech out something over here in the tech tree first to even be able to afford that upgrade. Either way, it is of massive importance that you always try in this equation to fulfill services that aren't too fulfilled. If you produce food and then fulfill oversaturated services, this won't work. But this is if you go after these metrics here, and there's plenty of them that you can follow, this is pretty much a foolproof way of growing your city. Don't forget the housing, though. Number 6, smart stockpiles. So usually you don't need to stockpile anything particularly much in this game, except for two things. Food, because food is always making the people happy when it is stockpiled, and the stuff you produce food out of, like grain, because droughts happen or other negative events happen. That is so important. If you evaluate or if you set up your industry in a way that it would consume, like here at this point we are at a net +0, this is a bad thing. This is already pretty much a warning sign. You always want to overproduce because there will be times of need and shortage. There are, by now with version 66, a lot of random events that will impose unhappiness, whether you want it or not, or impose a lack of food. So stockpiling food is massively important. And the other thing which is absolutely worth stockpiling is building materials, stone and wood, and besides that, something of value so you can pay the regular extortionist party, aka raiders, if you are not up to fighting them. It really is pretty cool if you have something they can ask for. But in a bigger picture, the most important things are food, stuff to make food out of, and wood and stone to keep building and keep producing. Because wood, especially wood, is an absolutely important resource for powering your hearths, powering your bakeries, making your buildings go, and all manner of things. These are the most important things to stockpile. Don't over-export them. Number 7, though, goes into the other direction, export all of your overproductions. Whatever you overproduce, you should always export the overproduction. With version 66, we can now link up our export depots directly to a specific warehouse, and we can tell them now how much of the specific good out of that specific warehouse should be sold. So with version 66, you have a much better control about what you want to sell than ever before, which is pretty cool. But the basic idea here is everything, like for example my stone stockpiles here, that I don't export will go bad eventually. The only exception of this rule are finite resources. For example, on this map, I have no replenishing source of stone. That is why I'm not exporting it. I'm stockpiling it. Because stone also basically doesn't decay. Because, man, it's stone. So, this is one of the very, very few exceptions. But if it's a regenerative resource that you are currently overstocking, by all means, export it. Denaries are always more useful than just a resource that's rotting in your warehouses. Number 8, military gear is pure profit. All that stuff down here is amazing to produce. It upgrades the value of the raw resources terribly, and most of it is even super easy to produce. Shields only require wood and leather, which are absolutely regenerative resources. Warhammers require stone, so if you have a quarry, this is also an endless resource for you. Leather armors also only require leather, and the other items only require metal and coal, which can be also endless resources if you choose your city according to that. What's really unique about military gear is it is so darn profitable while being pretty easily mass producible. Military gear is always in high request because the AI rulers will keep waging war. You see, the world is pretty big and there's always demand for weapons, and therefore it's a pretty safe business, just like in real life. The other businesses like machinery and jewelry and all those are less lucrative because they are more effort to set up. Military, on the other hand, is almost no effort to set up. Leather is easily acquirable via hunting or pasturing, and the makeshift armor technology only costs you 100 tech, and the first upgrade that you need to unlock there is 200, so in a grand total 300 tech points and you can get into the world of big leather armor. And it looks pretty similar on the other ends here, 100 and 200 here on the carpentry side for warhammers, and bows are the same, wood and leather. All in all, it is a stupidly profitable business, and it has the neat side effect that you can firstly grow rich out of it, and the other thing is, once you want to build up your own army, you have all the material to gear them out. So it's a pretty nice thing, and I can only recommend it. Number 9, tech versus expansion. At some point, your productions are not kicking it anymore, and you need to upgrade. My personal verdict is, though, when your workership in a certain industry is exceeding 30 to 50 people, it's most of the time much more valuable to start increasing the output via technology. We have pretty cheap husbandry technologies, pretty cheap farming technologies. The baseline entry to these trees is really, really cheap. And before investing another 20 workers into another industry, it often pays off to rather upgrade it here. Really depending on your race that you're playing. The gist of it here is the better your race is in technology, the better it is to invest into technology because you get a really good efficiency out of the laboratories. So, all in all, stop expanding once your industries are large enough and think about upgrading. Once the upgrades, though, exceed the costs of 500 tech points and more, most of the time expanding again is smarter. The good thing about technological upgrades is they will make every upcoming enterprise that you build more profitable, so you never lose anything by putting tech up first. The only thing that is important to note is technology always requires a certain baseline of workers already working there, because a 10-person boost of 10 units produced per day is only 1 unit per day upgrade. If it's 100 units per day, it's already 10. If it's 1,000 units per day, it's already 100. So percentile bonuses scale in quantity, and that's why you need some workers to get started with. And number 10, last but not least, I want to talk about the powerful things that you can do to make your city more attractive without investing workers. In point 5, I was talking about all the services that you can set up when you upgrade your food industry that cost you workers, like food stalls, taverns, markets, all those things. But there is a certain amount of little tricks that you can go for in this game that don't cost you any workers at all. Here's a few that I want to introduce. Roads. Every culture loves a certain type of road. Roads create fulfillment. Upgrade your roads, you just invest some resource in creating some fulfillment. Lighting can be produced over here in the decorations menu in case you didn't know it already, and does not require any technology. Almost all cultures love lighting. All you need to do is import some metal and set up some braziers all over your town, and you get some free immigrants. Same goes for benches. Everybody loves benches. There is a commonality among all species that they love to rest their R's on a bank. That is really something that amused me quite a lot, especially when I noticed that even a Gardimi does like that. And even the mighty and powerful Argonaut and Centaurs like their benches. So benches only cost furniture. Here we have again a cost-free thing. After that, things are more specialized and depending on your race. Awe is something not everybody likes. Harmony is something not everybody likes. All requires a technology and cut stone, but it is the same logic as before. You just invest some cut stone into your city, boom, instant immigrants. Harmony, on the other side, is pretty cool since it doesn't require technology. So nature-loving races have a distinct advantage at providing higher population numbers out of that reason alone, because you can simply make a city more attractive by plucking some wood into the ground and calling it a tree, because we built those trees. Don't get any false ideas here. Jokes aside, the other thing are shrines. These also don't draw any workers, and they play a pretty big role in making your city more attractive. And after that, well, this is an indirect thing, but you can always allow your people to eat more, which is a heavy burden on your food stockpiles. This is harsh, but if you have a lot of food production, you might want to use that. And last but not least, equipment and housing. So you can allow your people to wear way more than just one layer of clothing, and you can allow your people to pick up some resources for their homes. These are all very, very mighty buffs that only require resource and not workers. So if you ever find yourself in a deadlock where you need to invest workers into a new industry to grow, these are wonderful little mechanisms to go for to let your city grow again. Another nice mechanic is that money is also making your people happier. So just racking up denaries works as well. And the last thing on that list, every culture, every race loves to store a specific stuff. Humans love gems, Cretonians love rations, Dondorians love Sithalon, the Garthimi and the Tilapi love meat, and the Amevia, well, they love their fish, obviously. So you can utilize that as well, but it is a little bit more costly depending on the race. So that rounds it up. I hope it helped, and feel free to drop into the comment section more of these if you have any. I'd be really, really down, because this game is darn deep and complex, and I think it is impossible to boil it down to just 10 tips and tricks. So, thanks for watching, leave a thumbs up, consider subscribing, check out the description box, and if you'd be so kind to support Icon Game directly, there's a couple of links down there that you might want to check out. Well, a big thanks to everybody who's supporting the channel. I deeply appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching this video up until the very end, and see you guys next time. Bye bye.